So there's a bunch of noise going on in your head right now and you just don't know what to do. I'm gonna let you know right now that I've been in that exact same position where I was walking through life and I couldn't turn off the noise. It's like every time I wanted to read, every time I wanted to get into scripture, every time I just wanted to sit or maybe even meditate, all these things would begin to rise up in my head. And it was like, call this person, text this person, get on social media, do the laundry, whatever it may be. It was all these things that were trying to distract me, and they only came up for some reason when I tried to focus, when I tried to study, when I tried to get into the word, whatever it may be, or maybe I'm praying and all these things are rising up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I did, this one simple tool that helped me completely bypass that and reduce the noise, reduce the anxiety, reduce the distractions that I was facing on a constant basis, and allowed me to have a peaceful mind, because that is what you're called to have. You're not called to have a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. That means the ability to process, the ability to think, the ability to meditate, the ability to live at peace without your mind going in chaos and tormenting us and distracting us and causing us to procrastinate and making it so every time we're trying to fulfill something in our life, every time we're trying to go after a goal, we're being pushed down. Let's jump into it. This simple tool that can help you reduce the noise in your head. The first thing that you're going to want to do is find a safe and quiet place that you can be, where there's not too many people around, where there's not too many distractions. I usually recommend either your bedroom, an office, a living room. You could do a park, you could go outside, as long as those people walking around, as long as the birds going around aren't completely distracting. If that's something that you find peace in, when you're in nature and you're hearing the wind, when you're hearing the birds going and you feel at peace, definitely go for it. But if you're someone who gets distracted by those on a constant basis and you see a squirrel and you're like, oh, yeah, I would recommend stay away from those areas then. Once you're in this quiet place, you may or may not want to put on some instrumental music that is calming to you. Now, I recommend to make sure it is instrumental and doesn't have any lyrics to it. Otherwise, that will activate parts of your memory and cause you to go down this little rabbit hole, because I know I do that all the time. But when you have music playing, it can be really calming to your mind and your spirit and your soul and allow you to process things out. I'll put a link in the description of one of the songs that I like to put on. It's like a 3-hour song that is instrumental. It brings peace to my heart and my soul and allows me to process a lot of things out. So if you want to check that out as an easy place to start, you can check that in the description. So let's first understand what is going on in our brain that's causing a lot of this noise. We're currently living in a world where you're called to multitask. You're called to take on multiple things at once and make it flow. And the reality is, this is something we're putting on our resume. This is what's on job requirements, is can you do multiple things at once? And what happens is we start applying this in our everyday lives, but our brains cannot do that. Our brains do not have the capacity to think about two things at once. Multitasking essentially is the ability to move from one focus to another fairly quickly. When you do that, that means you're no longer focusing on the other thing, not focusing on two things. But because we're doing this, we apply this in our normal everyday lives, and we go around and we start thinking about all the things that we need to be doing throughout the day. And then instead of actually processing it out and fulfilling it and completing it, we almost compartmentalize or just keep it in our brains for another time, and we shift our focus without ever closing the door to that. So really what it's like through going throughout the day is you have this idea or this thought and you're like, well, I don't want to do that right now, I'm going to focus on this. And so you take that thought and put it into a little compartment, and now when you're quiet, it all rises to the surface. When you're doing something that you're not physically being entertained or pushed with, like TV, media, those situations tend to not fully press you in, and they don't always rise up in those moments because there's something going into your brain giving you that dopamine boost, whatever it may be. But when you don't have those things really fooling you, when you're sitting there with a book, when you're sitting there with the word, when you're trying to just be quiet, that's when it all comes up. So here's the tool that you can do right now to help you. What you're going to do is get out either your laptop, your phone, or a piece of paper. If you're someone who's easily distracted by your phone and your laptop, grab a pen and paper, a pencil, whatever it may be. Then what you're going to do is you're going to write to do at the very top. It's essentially going to be a to-do list to get your mind into that thought process. Then when you're sitting there and you're quiet, you're going to notice all these things begin to rise up in you. And you're going to notice, oh, I need to call this person. I need to check this mail. I need to go out and take out the trash. I need to clean up the house. I need to do the laundry. I need to vacuum. All these things are going to come to your mind. It's literally crazy the amount of things that will come into our mind. And what you're going to do is write them all out on the piece of paper as it comes. So, oh, I need to check the laundry. Oh, I need to take out the trash. Write it all down. And when you get it out of your brain onto paper, you'll notice you're not thinking about it anymore. And I don't always just do things that I have to do. I'll put that the title, but sometimes I'll get like, oh, this person said this thing to me, or this thought about this one thing. It could be something that aren't actions, but they're just thoughts that come through my mind and I don't want them to be there at that moment. So I just put it on paper and I watch the noise reduce. And what I've found is literally it takes maybe like 20, 30 things. I'll get literally a list of 20, 30, 40 things that are just putting out of my brain as I go through and I'm trying to meditate or read the word. And then after that, then it's quiet. It does take some time, but literally when you get one thing out, another thing's going to pop out and you're going to know when you're done because things aren't rising. You can think, you can be quiet, you can sit there in stillness. But I do this all the time. Even when I go to church and I want to worship, I get all these things going through my brain during that time when I'm trying to focus on God. So I'll pull out my phone or my notes and I'll just start writing everything that's popping up into my head. And after 20, 30, 40 things, however it may be that day, I can give all my focus to God. I can worship him with my mind fully focused on him. So if you have any questions about this, if you have any struggles, or if you have a story to share of a moment that you applied this and it worked for you, let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you and your experience as you go after this. Keep me up to date on what's going on. I read these comments all the time, so let's stay engaged together, have fun, and enjoy a quiet mind. Don't forget to check out my other videos where I go into how to deepen your relationship with God on a regular basis.